Yes, please start with the invocation and then you can start. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Can't see the screen, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay. Maybe I haven't shared it. Sorry. Okay, here you go.
Text 21. Tvam atmanatmanamave amoghadrak parasyapamsa paramatmana kalam ajam prajatam jagata shivayatan mahanubhava bhyudayo tiganyatam.
Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the super soul personality of Godhead because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please, therefore, describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly.
Text 22. Idam hi pumsas tapasas shutasya va svishtasya suktasya cha buddhidatoya avijjatoratha kavibhir nirupito yad utama shloka gunanuvarnanam.
Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerities, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of the hymns and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry.
Text 23. Aham puratitha bhave bhavamune tasyastu kasyaschana vidam vadinam nirupito balika eva yoginam shushusane pravishi nirvivikshatam.
O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service.
Text 24. Temaya pata khila chapaler bikhe dantidhata kridanike nuvartini chakru kripam yadyapi tulya darshana shushusamane munayo upabhasini.
Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty, and I did not speak more than required.
Text 25. Which is Taliban Unamadotito Dvijay Sakritsma Bunjitad Apasta Kilvisha Evam Pravritasya Vishuddhichetasas Tad Dharma Evatma Ruchi Prajayate.
Once only, by their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and by so doing, all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus, being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time, the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me.
Text 26. Tatran Vaham Krishna Katha Pragayatam Anugrahena Shanavam Manoraha Ta Shraddhaya Me Nupadam Vishundvata Priyashavasiyanga Mama Bhavad Ruchi.
Oh, Vyasadeva, in that association, and by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step.
Text 27. Tasmim stadai labdha ruche mahamate priyashavasiya ashkalita matir mama yayayamit itat sadasad swamayaya pashyamayi brahmani kalpitam pare.
O great sage, as soon as I got the taste of the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental.
Text 28. Itam sharad pravrishka ritu harer vishanvato me nasavam yasho malam sankirtyamanam munibhir mahatmabhir bhakti pravitatma rajas tamopaha.
Thus, during the two seasons, the rainy season and autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great-souled sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion and ignorance vanished.
Text 29. Tasyeva me nuraktasya prashitasya hatainasa shraddhadanasya balasya dantasya nujarasya cha.
I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses, and I was strictly following them with body and mind.
Text 30. Jnanam guyyatamam yattat sakshat bhagavato ditam anvarvochan kamishyanta kripaya dinavatsala.
As they were living, those Bhakti Vedantas, who are very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself.
Text 31. Yenevaham bhagavato vasudevasya vedasa maya nubhavam avidam yena gachanti tatpadam.
By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Shri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing them, one can return to him and personally meet him.
Text 32. Etat samsuchitam brahmams tapatraya chikitshitam yad ishvare bhagavati karma brahmani bhavitam.
O Brahmana Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
Text 33. Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena suvrata tadevahiyam mayam dravyam na punati chikitshitam.
O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very thing?
Text 34. Ivam nrinam kriya yoga sarvisam shruti hitava tavatma vinashaya kalpante kalpita pare.
Thus, when all our men's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which cause this perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work.
Text 35. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam.
Whatever work is done here in this life, for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor.
Text 36. Kurvana yatra karmani bhagavat chikshaya sakrat grinanti gunanamani krishna syanusmaranti cha.
While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his name, and his qualities.
Text 37. Om Namo Bhagavate Tobhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Nama Sankarshanaya Cha.
Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva along with his plenary expansions Pradyuman, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan.
Text 38. Iti murti abhidhanena mantra murtim amurtikam yajate yagya purusham sa samyak darshanapaman.
Thus, he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form.
Text 39. Imam Swanigamam Brahman Imam Swanigamam Brahman Avetyamad Anushthitham Adan Me Jnanam Aishwaryam Swasmin Bhavam Cha Keshava.
O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service.
Text 40. Tvam api yabhadra shruta vishrutam vibho samapyate yena vidam pubutsitam prakyahi dukher muhur arditatmanam sanklesha nirvanam ushanti nanyatha.
Please therefore describe the Almighty Lord's activities, which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. Hare Krishna, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Very nicely recited, Ishita. And Puja Mataji, your English was fantastic. So dear devotees, welcome to today's chat session. I'm conscious that maybe we have some new members joining us today. A very warm welcome to you. We gather every day from 7:45 to 8:45 to read and discuss Srimad-Bhagavatam. In the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami explains 64 items of devotion. And then he extracts out of those 65 items, 5 items. And he says, these 5 items are particularly potent. Even a slight contact with any of these 5 items can very easily elevate one to the highest stages of Krishna consciousness. So those 5 items were chanting the holy name of the Lord, associating with the Lord's devotees, worshipping the Lord. 3. 4 is residing in a holy place, meaning one's home can be a holy place or the temple. And 5 is to read and study Srimad-Bhagavatam. So what we are doing is accepted to be one of the 5 very potent ways of devotional service. And I think all the devotees who regularly come to this forum are experiencing some taste. Or how else would it be possible for someone to come when we become so preoccupied with so many things in our life, distractions, to come in and day out to listen. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam, in the 2nd chapter, the 17th verse, Lord Krishna says, Shrinvata swakatam Krishna punya shravana kirtanam hridayantasto ibadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Krishna says, the Lord says, when he notices that a particular living entity has an affinity, was developed an affinity to hear his messages, the Lord quickly takes note of such a person, and he personally enters into the heart of such a devotee and personally cleanses all the obstacles that are preventing the devotee from getting close to him. So it's a very potent activity that we are experiencing. So today we continue reading from chapter 5 of the 1st canto. The 1st canto is entitled Creation. And this chapter we're studying is called Narada's Instructions on Srimad-Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. Just a very quick overview. Srila Vyasadeva is the compiler of all the Vedas, the Vedic literatures. He was experiencing a particularly despondent moment in his life where he was feeling that he had not executed his purpose as the literary incarnation of the Lord. And in that disturbed state, his guru, Sri Narada, arrived. All this is Leela. And Narada explained to Srila Vyasadeva that unless one describes directly the pastimes of the Lord and the glories of devotional service to the Lord, all literature, all activities are considered to be secondary or a waste of time. So we are now entering today's verse 37, the final section of this chapter. And after to glorify devotional service and to explain the potency of devotional service, Sri Narada has been explaining to Vyasadeva, Srila Vyasadeva, about his own life story, about how through some contact of devotional service with Lord's devotees, he's become a devotee. And today's section is a very interesting section. Lord Sri Narada is going to teach his personal mantra. In the Hindu tradition, this is quite common, that the gurus used to give their disciples personal mantras. There was one story of one guru who called his disciples and he was giving them personal mantras and he was getting nice dakshina from them. And he told his disciples to keep it a big secret. But one day, one disciple decided to inquire from another disciple out of curiosity what was his mantra. And it so happened he found out that he got the same mantra as the other disciple. And they inquired more among themselves and they found that everyone had the same mantra. But Sri Narada, he is the disciple of his father, Sri Brahmaji, and he received a particular mantra, and he will be sharing it in today's verse. So let's proceed to study and discuss this very interesting part of Bhagavatam. So text number 27. So we will first recite the Mangala Charanam prayers. The Mangala Charanam prayers is to invoke auspiciousness. We always need auspiciousness when we study the Shastras. Yes, during Janmashtami, I met one Mataji who is part of our group, and she was telling me, you recite these mantras, and I've been looking and looking, and I couldn't find it. Where can I find these mantras? And I directed her to the first page of the introduction of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. So those of you who are not familiar with this Mangala Charanam prayers, if you have Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, open the introduction, and the introduction you'll find the Mangala Charanam prayers. Om Gyanaatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunvalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vaschacha Dishatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So text number 37. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnai Aniruddhaya Namasankarshanaya Cha. The word for word synonyms. Om, the sign of chanting the transcendental glory of the Lord. Namaha, offering obeisances unto the Lord. Bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead. Tubhyam, unto you. Vasudevaya, unto the Lord, the son of Vasudeva. Dhimahi, let us chant. Pradyumnaya, Aniruddhaya, and Sankarshanaya. All plenary expansions of Vasudeva. Namaha, respectful obeisances. Cha, and. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva along with his plenary expansions, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. Purport. According to Pancharatra, Narayan is the primeval cause of all expansions of Godhead. These are Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Vasudeva and Sankarshan are on the middle, left and right. Pradyumna is on the right of Sankarshan, and Aniruddha is on the left of Vasudeva. And thus the four deities are situated. They are known as the four aide-de-camp of Lord Sri Krishna. There is a Vedic hymn or mantra beginning with Omkar Pranava, and thus the mantra is established by the transcendental chanting process, namely Om Namo Dhimahi, etc. The purport is that any transaction, either in the field of fruitive work or in empiric philosophy, which is not ultimately aimed at transcendental realization of the Lord, is considered to be useless. Narada has therefore explained the nature of unalloyed devotional service by his personal experience in the development of intimacy between the Lord and the living entity by a gradual process of progressive devotional activities. Such a progressive march of transcendental devotion for the Lord culminates in the attainment of loving service of the Lord, which is called prema, in different transcendental variegatedness called rasas, or taste. Such devotional service is also executed in mixed forms, namely mixed with fruitive work or empiric philosophical speculations. Now, the question which was raised by the great rishis, headed by Shaunaka, regarding the confidential path of Suta's achievement through the spiritual master is explained herein by the chanting of this hymn, consisting of 33 letters. And this mantra is addressed to the 4 deities, or the Lord with his plenary expansions. The central figure is Lord Sri Krishna, because the plenary portions are his aide de camp. The most confidential part of the instruction is that one should always chant and remember the glories of Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with these different plenary portions such as Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. These expansions are the original deities for all other truths, namely either Vishnu Tattva or Shakti Tattva. So the verse again. Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva, along with these plenary expansions, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. So there's many facets to this verse and the purport. There is one important word. Well, there's many important words, but we'll give focus in firstly to one particular word, Dhimahi. Now, we encountered this word Dhimahi in the very first verse of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada has given a very interesting translation to Dhimahi in this verse. Can anyone remember how Srila Prabhupada has translated Dhimahi in the first verse of the Bhagavatam? You can look it up if you like. Okay, Srila Prabhupada translates Dhimahi in the first verse of the Bhagavatam as, let us meditate. Those of us who are second initiated know that this word Dhimahi features in the various mantras that form the Gayatri mantra. And the whole purpose of meditation is to meditate on the Lord. But Srila Prabhupada is giving very nicely in the context of this verse. Srila Prabhupada translates this Dhimahi as let us chant. Because chanting of any mantra is meant for meditation. To meditate on the Lord. If we are chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and our mind drifts to other things, then it's not meditation. Srila Prabhupada says, when we chant Hare Krishna, we should meditate on the sound vibration. So, Sri Narada is explaining here that he chants the glories of the Lord in his Chatur Vyuha form. The Chatur Vyuha is the expansions of the Lord as Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. I'll talk a bit more about this, these 4 quadruple expansions of the Lord. I won't get too much into the technical detail, but we'll do some explanation. So I lost my train of thought there. So yes, so these are the expansions of the Lord, and Sri Naradaji is recommending in this verse that we should chant the glories of these four forms of the Lord. Sri Narad Muni, he worships the Lord as Narayan. So he also discusses this mantra. Now, I thought maybe we can have a brief look at where these four forms of the Lord feature. So very briefly, if you struggle to catch up, do not worry. This is, in one sense, it's a little technical, but at the same time, it's quite straightforward. This explanation of the Lord, his different forms, his different expansions, was explained by the Lord to Sri Sanatan Goswami in a section called Sri Sanatan Shiksha, which is chapter number 20 of the Madhya Leela of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Lord Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, original, the original Bhagavan. And in his original form, he is Krishna as the coward boy in Vrindavan. In this, so Krishna's business is to play and to enjoy. So and above his play and enjoyment, Krishna also performs other activities. And the Lord expands in different ways for these various purposes. So we see Krishna's first expansion is called Swayam Prakash. That is directly Krishna. And the Swayam Prakash has two features: Prabhava Prakash, Prabhava, and Vaibhav Prakash. So the Prabhava Prakash means identical, no different expansions of the Lord. And one typical example is when Krishna expanded himself during the Rasa Leela into so many forms to dance with the gopis, he expanded himself into identical forms. Similarly, when Krishna was in Dwaraka, he had 16,108 wives, he had 16,108 palaces, and he expanded himself. That's called Prabhava Prakash. And then we have a feature called Vaibhava Prakash. And Vaibhava Prakash means, yes, still identical to the Lord in terms of potencies, but the features are different. Just like Lord Balaram, he is equal to Lord Krishna in every respect. The only difference is he's white in color. So that is called Vaibhava Prakash, and it's distinguished from Prabhava Prakash by the difference in features, whereas Prabhava Prakash is same. And the next feature is called Tad Ekatma Rup. And this again is similar to the above, when his form and his emotions are differently manifested. It's still Lord Krishna, but it's differently manifested. And one aspect of those features is called Vilas. Vilas, which is the pastime expansions of the Lord. So the Lord, he expands to perform Leela. So from which feature does this Leela expand from? So the first expansion is called the original. Adi means original. Original Chatur Vyuha. And the Chatur Vyuha is Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives an interesting explanation of how we see these four features. So imagine we are standing before the Chatur Vyuha and we are looking at them, the four features of the Lord. So if we look from left to right, the first feature is Aniruddha. Then there is Vasudeva. Then there is Sankarshan. And then on the far right, it is Prajumana. That's how Srila Prabhupada explains it on the purport. If you're looking straight at the Chatur Vyuha, first there is Aniruddha, then there is Vasudeva, then there's Sankarshan, and then there's Prajumana. The Prabhupada says to the left and the right in the purport. So what is interesting about these features of the Lord in the purport, Srila Prabhupada uses a French word, aide de camp. Aide de camp. Now, when you look at the dictionary or you look for explanations of this term, a common definition or common explanation to explain this term, it actually features in the English dictionary these days, although it's a French word. A military officer acting as a confidential assistant to a senior officer. So in the context of the Lord and his expansions, it's very interesting why Srila Prabhupada uses this term. So Lord Krishna is engaged in play. And when the Lord wants to engage in other types of activities, he expands. So in one sense, we can see, although these, so when Lord Krishna wants to perform other duties, he expands himself. So he's aide de camp, is the Lord himself. So he acts as a confidential assistant to himself. And this is the Chatur Vyuha, the expansions of the Lord to perform other activities. And just quickly go through the other aspects. I won't get into the detail of this because you can see my screen. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So that's original for expansion, and then from that original Sankarshan and Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Prajumana, and Aniruddha, there is multiple further quadruple expansions. The first one is called the Adi. Adi means original expansions, and from there you get the other expansions. And Srila Prabhupada explains the Lord, he is in his Prakash form in Dwaraka, in Mathura, and in Vrindavan. And then for his activities in the Vaikuntha planets, he expands as Narayan. And then you get, the secondary Chatur Vyuha expansions. And then from there you get further expansions, and then we get the Purusha Avatar, Shirodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Karanodakshaya Vishnu. And then from Karanodakshaya Vishnu, you have the Leela avatars, the Guna avatars, the Yuga avatars, the Manvantara avatars. So many unlimited expansions of the Lord. If you want more detail, I'll refer you back again to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter number 20. So Srila Prabhupada explained in one lecture, from Baladev, Chatur Vyuha, Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Prajumana, Aniruddha. And then from Sankarshan, Narayan. Then second Chatur Vyuha, And from the second Chaturvyuha, Sankarshan, the Purusha avatars, 3 Purusha avatars, 3 Vishnus, which I just showed in the diagram now. So Narayan comes, Lord Narayan comes on Sankarshan. So just another quick extract from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 1. Sorry, I think it's the 5th chapter. So Lord Krishna manifests his own form in Mathura and Dwaraka. He enjoys pastimes in various ways by expanding into the quadruple forms. Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are the primary quadruple forms from whom all other quadruple forms are manifested. They are all purely transcendental. Only in these 3 places, Dwaraka, Mathura, and Goloka, does the all-sporting Lord Krishna perform his endless pastimes with his personal associates. In the Vaikuntha planets of the spiritual sky, the Lord manifests his identity as a Narayan and performs various pastimes in various ways. So this is some context of these lords, the lords who are described in this particular chapter. I'll just quickly revert back to the purport, and maybe we can pick up some salient points. Srila Prabhupada explains in the 3rd paragraph the difference between pure devotional service and mixed devotional service. Can someone explain to me some categories of mixed devotional service? There is pure devotional service and there's mixed devotional service. Who can explain what is mixed devotional service?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance for glories to Srila Prabhupada. I can just try because it's just coming to my mind is Karma Mishrit Bhakti, Gyan Mishrit Bhakti, and maybe I don't know the other one, sorry.
Yoga Mishra Bhakti.
Yoga Mishra. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Yes. So sometimes one may perform devotional service, but one may also have other desires. So Karma Mishra Bhakti means we're performing bhakti, but still there is lingering desires or sometimes prominent desires for some fruit of result. Jnana Mishra Bhakti is one performs devotional service, but there's still a desire for liberation. And Yoga Mishra Bhakti, also referred to as Adi, Srila Rupa Goswami, when one performs devotional service, but still one has some desire for some of the yogic siddhis. Now, pure devotional service has to be free of any desire. Well, actually, there's still desire, but the desire is simply to please Krishna. May Krishna be pleased with my service and no other desire. And Srila Prabhupada says, some people, they progress from Karma Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, or Jnana, and eventually they may come to pure devotional service. Anya Bilashita Shunyam, no other desire. And then from there, they can progress to Prema. And what is the nature of Prema? Prema, as Prabhupada says here, is the different transcendental variegated rasas. When there are the different mellows or rasas being exchanged and felt, then that is Prema. And Prabhupada says something interesting. Such devotional service is also executed in mixed forms, namely mixed with fruit of work or empiric philosophical speculation. But that's mixed devotional service. Oh, I feel we got already past 1:30. Okay, I think I'll stop here. And we'll take any questions or comments. or realizations anyone may have.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my Dandavat pranams.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to go back to the slide, Prabhuji, where you said Prabhava and Vilasa forms. So is it a combination of those forms as all the other forms? Because that's what seems like.
I didn't understand your question, Mataji.
Prabhuji, in that slide, it says you have this Swayam
Prakash.
Prakasha, and then Prabhava Prakasha and Vaibhava Prakasha.
Yes, yes.
But when it goes down over there, Prabhuji, does it, so the Vilasa thing comes, no? Vilasa is
Yes, pastime expansions.
past time. Okay, I was just thinking all these expansions, so are they only from a Vaibhava Prakasha rather than
from the Prabhava.
from the Prabhava? Is that the thing, or is it a mixture of both, Prabhuji?
No, by definition, when it's identical, the Lord's form is there, it's the Lord's form, but the manifestation is different. Meaning, if it's any different from the Lord's expansion as the Lord's form as coward boy, then it is different. It is different. From that aspect, it's simultaneously one and it is different. One that is Krishna, but just there is some difference in Prabhupada, or it's translated as different features and different emotions. Where the features are different and where the emotions are different, it's always Vaibhava Prakash.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. I was a little bit, I didn't understand that part. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. I will ask an ignorant question because it just came in my mind. So all these forms of Krishna is Krishna, and the demigods are living entities. They are powerful living entities. They are not Krishna's expansions.
Yes. Prabhupada briefly, I think, mentions it in the purport. We have Tattva means truth. So there is Vishnu Tattva, there is Shakti Tattva, there is Jiva Tattva. So the demigods, it is said in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada explains, like sometimes Lord Brahma, the Lord personally takes the position of Lord Brahma. Okay, so in that situation, it's not Jiva Tattva. It could be Vishnu Tattva. But ordinarily, when a living entity, a Jiva Tattva, occupies the position of Lord Brahma, then that's Jiva Tattva. So one always understands it in terms of Tattva. Jiva Tattva is directly the Lord's and his expansions. Sometimes called plenary expansions. That's always Vishnu Tattva. And that's distinguished from Jiva Tattva. We are Jiva Tattva. The demigods, in most instances, they are Jiva Tattva, who are empowered or given specific duties. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Okay.
So Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, then Shakti Tattva. So please explain about that, Prabhuji.
Shakti Tattva. Okay. So Srimati Radharani is Ladini Shakti. So she is Shakti Tattva, and then also she expands in different types of Shaktis also. So Shakti Tattva is different, like Srimati Radharani is different category from Vishnu Tattva. She's not Jiva Tattva. She's Shakti Tattva, Ladini Shakti.
Ladini. So what happens to Saraswati and Parvati?
Saraswati and Parvati, sometimes Parvati is described as the expansion of the expansion of the expansion of Srimati Radharani. Just like Lord Shiva, he is a particular expansion of the Lord. Lord Brahma gives the example that from milk we get yogurt. If you add a curdling agent to milk, you get yogurt, right? But yogurt cannot become milk again. So in the same way, so Lord Shiva, he is a specific form, and then his consort, Parvati or Devi, is also in some. I don't want to get into very. Brahma Samhita explains, from Subhadra, there's expansions. So there's various expansions of the Shakti Tattva also. But Saraswati, she's the consort of Lord Brahma. She can be ordinary Jiva Tattva that's been empowered. But Lakshmi Devi, she's Shakti Tattva. She's the consort of Lord Vishnu. She's not ordinary Jiva. She's Shakti Tattva.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So much clarification. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, is it that only Krishna has Krishna has got 64 qualities? It's only the Swayam Rupa or Prabhav Prakash that have 64 qualities. The rest do not have 64 qualities. Or
Yes, that's correct, Puja Mataji. In the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that the Narayan features, they have 60 of the 64 qualities. But the Krishna feature, Lord Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, Swayam Rup. He has 4 features that Narayan doesn't have. You know which are those 4, Puja Mataji?
I think one of them is his flute, one of them is devotees,
Yes.
his beauty,
Yes.
and there's a fourth one.
His Leela, his pastimes.
His pastimes, his Leelas. Yes.
Very sweet pastime. Very good, Puja Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments or reflections?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanyavad Pranam Sri Vishwabad.
Hare Krishna, Sailesh Prabhu, Dhanyavad Pranam.
In Vaibhav Prakash, Lord Birlam has still 64 qualities, though, no?
Yes, according to the definition, he will have those qualities. Only difference is his color. And
it's not just Prakash, it's also
color and emotion. Color, features and emotions. Because Balaram, although he has same potencies as Krishna, he is called servitor Godhead. Because, if you ask Krishna, who is God? Krishna will say, I am God. If you ask Lord Balaram, who is God? He will say, Krishna is God and I am his servant. So although he has the same potencies, he's equal to Krishna in potencies, his mood is different. He's in the mood of wanting to serve Krishna.
Yes, thank you. It was just the point that it's not just Swayam Prakash, it's also Vaibhav Prakash can have the same qualities.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point you make. Good point.
The other question I have, which I can't find a ready answer to within the CC, the quadruple expansion and the multiple quadruple expansion, it doesn't explain the function of Pradyumna, Niruddha, Sankarshan. It says they expand like that, but we don't know what the function of the expansions are, or there's no ready description that I can find either in the purport or in the translations. Is there any way that I can find that out in more detail?
It's a very interesting point you raised. I was hoping for today's class that I could, but I just never had time to complete my.
Prabhuji, but in the diagram, is it not written down below all the forms? Venkatesh, whatever it is, Narayana, Govinda, and all those forms are there written down under each of them. I was just going through that, Prabhuji, in the.
Where about is this one? Keshava, Narayan.
Yes, or different forms in another one where the top bit also.
Oh, you mean the different?
Yeah, the top one, Prabhuji, Vasudeva.
Yeah.
Vasudeva, yes.
Oh, so the different expansions come from the different quadruple expansion. Yeah. So from Pradyumna comes Trivikram. Is that Vamana and Shri?
Vamana.
From Aniruddha,
Vamana.
Rishikesh, Padmanabh, and Damodar. From Sankarshan comes Govinda, Vishnu, and Madhusudan. And from the Vasudev quadruple expansion comes
Shiva, Narayana, and Madhava.
And Madhava. And Prabhupada explains, yeah, so that's an interesting point you raised, Mataji. So that's, in one sense, Shailesh Prabhu, that could be deemed to be the difference in terms of function. It seems like, there's unlimited forms of the Lord, and each of them are identified in different ways, they hold the conch and so on. But also, I was listening to some lectures today on my way back from work, and there was some explanation about some having particular, one of each of the Chaturvad Vyahu, or mind, intelligence, but I need to research it a bit further. So it's an interesting point you raised, and I was thinking about it today. But Mataji has reminded us from one difference from the diagram here, one particular character.
That's very good. Thank you, Prabhu. But the question was more detailed than that. In that there are multiple Chaturvyas, and then you can't have, or there's nothing such thing as no can't. Krishna can do anything in multiple times he wants. But the multiple Chaturvyas presumably don't have the same expansions again. So the first Chaturvya may have this, but then the second Chaturvya, third Chaturvya, all have, presumably don't have the same functions and the same expansions again.
Yeah, that would seem there, but if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says those Chaturvyuha, they expand into multiple. So maybe there's a layer that's been missed out here, but at some point in time, there's further expansions or divisions.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, this stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. It's just so interesting. Thank you, Prabhuji, for a very interesting.
Thank you, Prabhuji. This is wonderful.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Let me have a look at the chat box. Sometimes some devotees are shy. They don't.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So in one of the last classes, we read that Vishnu is the plenary expansion of Krishna, which means his exact replica. So how does it vary when Krishna has 64 qualities and
is not an exact replica, as we've seen from the diagram. There's difference, at least in emotion and features. And from Nectar of Devotion, qualities of Krishna, that's very clearly explained, chapters 21 and 22, that Lord Vishnu does not have 4 of the qualities that Lord Krishna has.
What does it mean by plenary expansion then?
Plenary expansion, as we discussed last time, means it's complete. In spiritual life, we have terms complete, more complete, and most complete. So the plenary expansions are complete expansions in that they have the potencies of the Lord, but at the same time, they're still in relation to Krishna, they do not have. So the Vishnu expansions, they are complete expansions with potencies, but still Krishna, there is some differences.
Okay, there's a new thing, Prabhuji. Complete, more complete, and most complete.
Yes.
Thanks.
So Prabhuji, can I ask one question, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Then we have Krishna has all his leelas.
Yes.
Then the Vishnu with avatara, so they are not leelas then. All the stories which we listen.
Well, it depends which Vishnus you're talking about. They are.
We have Narasimha avatar, then we have Matsya avatar, whatever the 10 avatars we have, Rama avatar.
Yeah.
And from Parashurama avatar, then Vara avatar, all that, which we say 10, but obviously Vishnu's expressions are different.
Yes.
But what we have read about this Das avatar, which they tell from fish till turtle, and then boar, and then Narasimha, and then Vamana, and then we have Parashurama, Rama, Krishna, then Buddha, and Kalki. So these ones, they are not leelas. Except for Krishna leelas are pastimes in Vrindavana and Braja and other places. They are leelas. But what happened to these stories where Vishnu comes as an avatar? So are they not called leelas? What are they called then?
No, there's leela avatars. Clearly, they are leela avatars, which are discussed in the first canto. And I think in the diagram, it's also shown that they're leela avatars. but they have different degrees of manifestations of the potencies of the Lord. You can see here Leela avatars. Sometimes the Leela avatars in the particular planets, they appear from the Vishnu expansions. He said out of the Leela avatars, Narasimha avatar and Ram avatar, they are the closest to completeness. Well, more complete, most complete.
More complete. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare
Sorry
Krishna.
for ignorant questions,
No.
but they're quite interesting. The chapter is absolutely, oh my God, it's like the child playing these games, like that way we feel like something, they're all expanding, like one form, another form.
Yes.
So many names. And that is why we understand, like I'm sure each name has a particular function, I think. Each name has a particular function.
Yes. Each name ends. There's so many times, even when you do the Archaman, so many names of the Lord we recite. There's a comment here in the chat by Chandra Mataji. The candle analogy is appropriate here. I think the potency of each candle is the same, but each candle is different. Yes, Lord Brahma gives the analogy of the candle in the Brahma Samhita. Sometimes we as conditioned souls, we make distinctions. Sometimes, so Prabhupada explains, Lord Brahma explains, these expansions are complete like the original candle, that is one candle. But still there's also subtle differences. But that's that's a whole new topic we can discuss for a long time.
Thank you for a lovely session, Prabhuji.
Absolutely.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu. I'm missing your association from the weekend.
No, lovely session. And Vyasadeva has given us 18,000 verses in the Bhagavatam, but somewhere I heard that in the heavenly planets is much, much more. So maybe you can peep over, go to there and get us that knowledge that is hiding in the heavenly planets.
Oh, if I go there, I'll get distracted, Prabhu. I may fall down. Don't. I don't want to go there. I want to stay. Sorry, Prabhu. Yeah, I want to stay here in Srila Prabhupada's movement. I feel protected here. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, dear devotees. It's wonderful being in your association again. All glories to your service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Beautiful session.
Hare Krishna.